The stars shifted and twisted as the Velinar ships dropped out of hyperspace. 40 vessels, all of them damaged, all of them dying slowly. Inside those ships were the last survivors of an entire civilization. 40,000 souls who had nowhere left to run. Commander Arian stood on the bridge of the Wandering Hope. Her hands gripped the railing as she stared at the view screen. There, hanging in the darkness of space, was a blue and green world. Earth. She had heard stories about this planet. The humans who lived there were new to space travel. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 60 years ago. Most of the galaxy barely noticed them, but right now Earth was the only hope the Velinar had left. Behind Arian, her crew moved quietly through their tasks. The bridge was supposed to have 20 people working here. Now there were only 8. The others had died during the long flight. Some from injuries, some from sickness. Some simply gave up and stopped eating. Arian closed her eyes and remembered her homeworld. Velara had been beautiful once. Crystal oceans that glowed at night, cities that floated on anti-gravity platforms, gardens that stretched for hundreds of miles. Then the Korthax came. The Dominion wanted Velara's resources. When the Velinar refused to surrender, the Korthax burned everything. That was 3 generations ago. Since then, the Velinar had run. They fled from system to system, always one step ahead of the Korthax fleets. But the Dominion was patient. They hunted the Velinar across the galaxy like predators chasing wounded prey. One by one, the refugee fleet's ships broke down. One by one, they lost people. Now only these 40 ships remained, and they were dying too. "Commander, we are being hailed," her communications officer said. His name was Kelris, and he looked too young for his uniform. Most of their experienced officers were dead. "Put it through," Arian said. The view screen changed. A human appeared on it. He wore a dark blue uniform with silver markings. His face was serious but not unfriendly. "This is Captain Henry Walsh of the United Earth Nation Ship Defender. You have entered the Sol system without authorization. Please state your intentions." Arian straightened her uniform.
She had prepared this speech for weeks.
"Captain Walsh, I am Commander Arian of the Velinar people. We come in peace. We are not warriors or traitors. We are refugees, the last survivors of our species. For 3 generations, we have fled from the Korthax Dominion. They destroyed our homeworld. They hunted us across the stars. We have nowhere else to go." She paused, feeling her throat tighten. "We ask for shelter, a place to rest, time to rebuild. We have little to offer except our labor and our gratitude, but we are desperate. You are our last hope." Captain Walsh's expression did not change, but Arian thought she saw something soften in his eyes. "Commander Arian, please maintain your current position. I need to relay your request to Earth's government. This decision is above my authority." "We understand," Arian said, "but please hurry. Our ships are failing. We have limited food and medical supplies. Many of our people are sick." "Acknowledged," Walsh said. "I will make sure they know the urgency." "Defender out." The screen went dark. Arian sat down heavily in her command chair. Around her, the bridge crew looked at her with desperate hope in their eyes. "Now we wait," she said quietly. The waiting was terrible. Hours turned into days. The Velinar ships drifted in space, their engines shut down to conserve power. Inside those ships, people rationed food that was already too scarce. The medical bays overflowed with sick and injured. Children cried from hunger. The elderly closed their eyes and did not open them again. Arian walked through the corridors of her ship every day. She needed to see her people. She needed them to see her still fighting, still hoping. But it was getting harder. In the lower decks, families huddled together for warmth because the heating systems were failing. In the medical bay, Dr. Venn worked without sleep, trying to save people with equipment that barely functioned. "Commander," Venn said when Arian visited. His hands were shaking from exhaustion. "We lost 12 more today. Mostly children and elderly. I cannot keep doing this with what we have." "Hold on," Arian told him. "Just a little longer." But she did not know if she believed her own words. On the 3rd day, the message came. Arian was trying to sleep when Kelris called her to the bridge. She ran through the corridors, her heart pounding. This was it, yes or no, life or death. On the view screen was a human woman. She had gray hair and wore formal clothing. Her face was kind. "Commander Arian, I am Secretary General Linda Martinez of the United Earth Nations. I speak for all of humanity." Arian held her breath. "Your request for asylum has been reviewed by Earth's governments," Martinez continued. We have debated and discussed. Some argued we cannot afford to help. Others worried about bringing conflict to our system. But in the end, we decided that these concerns do not matter as much as doing what is right. Martinez leaned forward slightly. Commander Arian, on behalf of Earth and all humanity, we grant you and your people asylum. You are welcome in the Sol system. We are preparing a home for you right now. Arian felt tears streaming down her face. Around the bridge, her crew members were crying too. Some laughed. Some hugged each other. Kelrus sat at his station with his head in his hands, his shoulders shaking. Thank you, Arian managed to say. Thank you. You have saved us. We will never forget this, Martinez smiled. You will be guided to a location called Kepler Station. It is an orbital habitat between Earth and Mars. We built it years ago but never populated it. It will be your new home. Our ships are already on the way with supplies and assistance. We are in your debt, Arian said. No debt, Martinez replied. When someone needs help, you help them. That is all. Welcome to the Sol system, Commander. Welcome home. The transmission ended. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Arian stood and addressed her crew. Send word to all ships. We have been granted asylum. We are safe. After 3 generations of running, we can finally stop. Cheers erupted across the bridge. Across all 40 ships, the news spread like fire. People who had given up hope suddenly found it again. Parents held their children and cried with relief. The elderly smiled and thanked the stars, but Arian knew this was just the beginning. The Korthax would not stop hunting them just because they reached Earth. The Dominion did not forgive. They did not forget. Sooner or later they would come. She looked at the blue planet on her view screen. Earth seemed so peaceful, so beautiful. She hoped humanity understood what they had just agreed to. By sheltering the Velinar, they had made themselves targets. But for now, none of that mattered. For now, they were safe. They had shelter. They had hope. They had found humanity. The Velinar fleet approached Kepler Station slowly. Arian watched through the view screen as the massive structure grew larger. She had seen orbital habitats before, but this was different. This was enormous. A ring of metal and glass that sparkled in the sunlight, rotating slowly to create artificial gravity. It looked like it could hold hundreds of thousands of people. It is empty, Kelrus said, reading his sensors. The entire station. They built all of this and never used it. And now they are giving it to us, Arian said softly. She could not quite believe it. As their ships docked with the station, Arian saw something that made her stop and stare. Human ships were already there. Dozens of them. Construction vessels, cargo haulers, transport ships. They swarmed around the station like bees around a hive. When Arian stepped onto the station for the first time, a human was waiting for her. He was tall and broad-shouldered, wearing work clothes covered in grease stains. He smiled and extended his hand. Commander Arian, I am Jake Morrison, construction supervisor. Welcome to Kepler Station. Arian carefully took his hand. Human handshakes were strange to her, but she had studied their customs. Thank you, Mr. Morrison. This station is incredible. Call me Jake, he said. And you have not seen anything yet. Come on. I will show you what we are doing. He led her through the station. Everywhere Arian looked, humans were working. They were installing new life support systems, building walls and rooms, setting up power generators. The noise was incredible. Welding torches sparked. Heavy machinery rumbled. People shouted instructions to each other. We are modifying everything for your biology, Jake explained. The air mixture, the water filtration, the temperature controls. We brought in xenobiologists to make sure everything is safe for you. This must be very expensive, Arian said. Jake shrugged. Probably. But that is not my problem. My problem is making sure this place is ready for 40,000 new residents in 3 weeks. 3 weeks? Arian stopped walking. That is impossible. You have not met human construction crews, Jake grinned. We work in shifts, 24 hours a day. When one team gets tired, another team takes over. We will get it done. Over the next days, Arian watched in amazement as the station transformed. The humans worked with incredible speed and efficiency, but more than that, they worked with care. They did not just build functional spaces, they built a home. When Jake learned that Velinar people loved gardens, he immediately ordered plants brought from Earth. Soon, entire sections of the station bloomed with flowers and trees. When he learned that Velinar children needed certain types of lighting, he had special lamps installed in all the residential areas. Why are you doing all this? Arian asked him one day. You could build something simple and functional. This is far more than we need. Jake stopped working and looked at her seriously. You are not just refugees passing through. This is your home now. And a home should be a place that makes you happy, not just a place that keeps you alive. Arian had to turn away so he would not see her cry. But the construction was only part of what humanity did. Medical ships arrived carrying supplies and personnel. Dr. Karen Hughes was one of the first to come aboard. She was a specialist in alien biology, and she brought equipment and medicines that the Velinar desperately needed. She worked with Dr. Venn, the Velinar physician, learning everything she could about Velinar physiology. Together, they modified human medicines to work safely on Velinar biology. They calibrated diagnostic equipment. They established treatment protocols. In the third week, disaster struck. A virus spread through the Velinar children. It was something from their own biology, made worse by the stress and malnutrition of their long flight. Children started collapsing. Fevers spiked. The Velinar medical staff panicked because they had no way to treat it with their limited supplies. Karen did not panic. She worked for 60 hours straight, barely eating, never sleeping. She ran tests. She analyzed data. She tried different combinations of medicines. Arian watched her work, saw the determination in her eyes, and understood that this human doctor would not give up. Finally, on the third day, Karen found a treatment that worked. Within hours, the children started recovering. Within days, the outbreak was over. When Arian thanked her, Karen just smiled tiredly. This is my job. Keeping people healthy. It does not matter what species they are. The Velinar people moved into their new homes. For the first time in 3 generations, they had enough space, enough food, enough safety to think about the future instead of just surviving today. Children attended schools that human teachers helped set up. Adults found work helping to maintain the station, or working with human engineers on various projects. Artists started creating again, making beautiful pieces that blended Velinar and human styles. The station filled with life and hope. But the peace did not last long. The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, Earth time. Arian was in a meeting with Jake, discussing plans to expand the agricultural section, when Secretary General Martinez called her. Commander, we have received a communication from the Korthax Dominion, Martinez said. Her face was serious. They know you are here. Arian felt her blood turn cold. What did they say? They claim the Velinar people are subjects of the Dominion. Escaped property that must be returned. They are demanding we hand you over immediately. And what did you tell them? Arian asked, though she feared the answer. Martinez's expression hardened. I told them that the Velinar people are under Earth's protection, that they are free beings, not property, that we do not negotiate with slavers and conquerors. They will come for us, Arian said quietly. The Korthax do not accept defiance. They will send their fleets. I know, Martinez said. We are prepared for that. Earth does not abandon those who seek shelter with us. After the call ended, Arian sat in silence. Jake looked at her with concern. They are going to fight for us, Arian said. Humanity is going to go to war with the Korthax Dominion because of us. Would you prefer we hand you over? Jake asked. No, but I do not want you to die for us either. Jake stood and walked to the window. Outside, Kepler Station gleamed in the sunlight. You see all this? Everyone who lives here now? That is worth fighting for. You asked us for shelter. We did not just give you a roof. We gave you a home, and we protect our homes. News of the Korthax threat spread quickly. On Earth, governments mobilized military forces. Ships that had been in dock for repairs were rushed back into service. New ships under construction were completed ahead of schedule. The entire human military machine geared up for war, but something else happened too. Regular people on Earth learned about the Velinar refugees. They saw footage of the children who had almost died from the virus. They heard stories about the 3-generation flight from persecution. They saw images of families finally finding peace on Kepler Station. Public support for protecting the Velinar was overwhelming. Protests erupted in cities across Earth, not against the coming war, but demanding that their governments do more to help. Donations poured in. Supplies, money, support. Arian received thousands of messages from humans she had never met. They welcomed her people. They promised to stand with them. One message came from a human child, written in careful handwriting. Dear Velenar friends, do not be scared. My dad is in the Space Navy. He will protect you. Welcome to our solar system. Arian kept that message. She put it on her wall where she could see it every day. 3 weeks after the Korthax threat, the first warships arrived at Kepler Station. Not to attack, but to defend. Earth's military established a protective perimeter around the station. Captain Henry Walsh, who had been the first human to greet the Velenar, commanded the lead ship. He sent a message to Arian. Commander, my orders are clear. Nothing gets through to Kepler Station. Nothing. You and your people are safe now. Arian looked out at the human warships surrounding her new home. She thought about Jake, working day and night to build them a beautiful place to live. She thought about Karen, refusing to sleep until she saved the children. She thought about all the humans who had opened their hearts to complete strangers. The Velenar had asked Earth for shelter. Humanity had given them so much more. Admiral Peter Collins stood on the command deck of the UN Valiant and watched his fleet take position. 53 warships surrounded Kepler Station in a defensive formation that had taken weeks to perfect. Each ship knew its role. Each captain understood the stakes. Collins was 62 years old. He had served in Earth's Navy for 40 years, but he had never commanded a fleet preparing for a battle like this. The Korthax Dominion had conquered dozens of species. Their military reputation was terrifying. They had never lost a major engagement, but Collins had advantages the Korthax did not know about. Human engineering had taken some unusual paths. While most species focused on energy weapons and shields, Earth had perfected kinetic weapons to an art form, railguns that could accelerate projectiles to incredible speeds, missile systems with guidance computers that could think and adapt, point defense networks that could track thousands of targets simultaneously. The question was whether it would be enough. Admiral, long-range sensors are picking up hyperspace signatures, his tactical officer reported. Multiple contacts. Very large. Here we go, Collins said quietly. Sound general quarters. All ships to battle stations. Across the fleet, alarms blared. Crews rushed to their positions. Weapon systems powered up. Shield generators hummed to life. The Korthax fleet emerged from hyperspace like a wall of metal and menace. 20 warships, each one larger than anything in Earth's fleet. Their hulls were dark and angular, covered in weapon ports and armor plating. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never known defeat. The lead ship broadcast a message. A reptilian face appeared on every screen in the human fleet. His scales were deep red and his eyes were cold and cruel. I am War Master Drakon of the Korthax Dominion. You are harboring escaped subjects of the Dominion. You have 1 hour to surrender them to us. If you refuse, we will destroy your station and every ship defending it. This is your only warning. Admiral Collins opened a channel back. This is Admiral Peter Collins of the United Earth Nations. The beings you call subjects are free people under our protection. Your demand is denied. If you approach Kepler Station, we will defend it with all available force. This is your only warning. Drakon's laughter was harsh and mocking. You think your primitive vessels can stop the might of the Dominion? You will learn the cost of defiance. The channel closed. Collins looked around his bridge. His crew was tense but focused. Good. All ships, weapons free. Engage at will when they enter range. The Korthax fleet advanced. They did not bother with tactics or deception. They simply came forward in a straight line, their weapons charging, confident in their superiority. The first Korthax ship accelerated ahead of the others, its massive plasma cannons glowing with building energy. Captain Henry Walsh, commanding the UN Defender, moved to intercept. The Defender was smaller than the Korthax vessel, but it was fast. Incredibly fast. It had experimental inertial dampening systems that let it maneuver in ways that should have been impossible. As the Korthax ship fired its first salvo of plasma bolts, the Defender twisted and accelerated, the deadly energy passing through empty space where it had been moments before. Then the Defender fired back. Not with plasma or lasers, but with railgun projectiles. Solid tungsten rods accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. The Korthax shields, designed to absorb and dissipate energy weapons, did nothing against solid matter traveling at relativistic velocities. The projectiles punched through the Korthax ship's hull like it was paper. Secondary explosions rippled across its surface as the rods tore through vital systems. In less than 30 seconds, the massive Korthax warship was a tumbling wreck. atmosphere venting from dozens of holes. On his flagship, War Master Drakon stared in disbelief. One of his heavy cruisers destroyed in seconds by a ship half its size. It was impossible, but there was no time to process what had happened. The rest of the human fleet opened fire. Missiles launched in massive swarms. Not simple ballistic weapons, but smart missiles with advanced guidance systems. They dodged and weaved through space, evading point defense fire, coordinating with each other to overwhelm defenses. When Korthak's ships tried to shoot them down, the missiles split into multiple warheads, each one independently targeting weak points in the enemy hulls. More railgun volleys followed. The human ships moved in coordinated patterns, firing from multiple angles, never staying still long enough for the Korthaks to get a solid lock. It was like watching a pack of wolves attack a herd of much larger animals, using speed and coordination to overcome size and strength. The Korthaks fought back with everything they had. Plasma cannons roared. Particle beams lashed out. Their shields held against most attacks and their armor was thick. When they scored hits on human ships, the damage was devastating. The UN Courage took a direct hit from a plasma cannon and simply ceased to exist, vaporized in an instant. But for every human ship destroyed, 2 Korthaks vessels were crippled or destroyed. The battle was not going the way Drakon had planned. All ships focus fire on their command vessel, Collins ordered. Bring down that flagship. Every available weapon in the human fleet turned toward Drakon's ship. Railgun rounds hammered its shields. Missiles swarmed around it like angry insects. The Korthak's flagship's defenses were formidable, but under such concentrated fire they began to fail. Drakon felt his ship shudder as a railgun round penetrated the failing shields and tore through the hull. Alarms screamed. His crew shouted damage reports. Engines are failing, War Master. We have hull breaches on multiple decks, weapons at 50% capacity. Drakon looked at his tactical display. Half his fleet was destroyed or disabled. The humans were still fighting with the same intensity as when the battle started. His intelligence had been completely wrong. These were not primitive warriors. These were skilled, determined defenders fighting for something they believed in, and they were winning. Order all ships to retreat, Drakon commanded, the words bitter in his mouth. Fall back to hyperspace jump distance. But War Master, the Dominion does not retreat. The Dominion does not lose entire fleets either, Drakon snarled. Retreat now. The surviving Korthak ships turned and fled. The human fleet pursued them to the edge of the system, then stopped and let them go. There was no glory in destroying fleeing enemies. On the Valiant, Admiral Collins allowed himself to breathe again. Damage report. 4 ships lost, sir. 7 more with heavy damage. Kepler Station is untouched. Collins nodded. 4 ships, 4 crews, hundreds of people dead. But they had protected the station. They had protected the Velinar. Signal all ships, well done. Begin rescue operations for any survivors, including Korthak's crew. Send medical teams to the damaged vessels. On Kepler Station, Arian had watched the entire battle. She stood in the command center, her hands gripping a railing so tight her knuckles turned white. She had seen the human ships destroyed. She had seen people die defending her people. When the Korthaks fled and the all-clear signal sounded, she sat down and wept. Not from fear, not from relief, from overwhelming gratitude and terrible guilt. Lieutenant Sam Parker found her there an hour later. He was a young security officer assigned to the station. His uniform was clean, but his eyes showed the strain of watching the battle. Commander Arian, are you okay? People died for us today, she said quietly. Humans I never met. They died protecting people they barely know. Sam sat down beside her. That is what we do. When someone needs protection, we protect them. When someone needs help, we help them. It is not complicated. But why? You gain nothing from this. You lose ships, lives, resources. Why would you sacrifice so much for strangers? Sam thought for a moment. My grandfather told me something when I was young. He said that civilization is measured by how it treats those who cannot protect themselves. Any species can be strong. Any species can conquer. But it takes real strength to defend those who cannot defend themselves. That is what separates the good from the bad. Arian looked at him, so young, so certain of his convictions. I wish more of the galaxy thought like you. Maybe they will, Sam said. Maybe seeing Earth stand up to the Korthaks will inspire others. He was right, though neither of them knew it yet. Across the galaxy, other species had watched the battle. They had seen the mighty Korthax Dominion defeated by a young species that most had dismissed as insignificant. They had seen humanity choose compassion over caution, sacrifice over safety, and some of them began to wonder if they could be brave too. 3 months after the battle, Kepler Station had transformed into something beautiful. The Velinar people had stopped simply surviving and started truly living. Gardens bloomed throughout the station, mixing earth plants with carefully preserved Velinar species. Markets opened where people traded goods and shared food from both cultures. Children ran through the corridors, playing games that mixed human and Velinar traditions. Lieutenant Sam Parker walked through the main residential area, amazed at how much had changed. When he first arrived at the station, it had been a place of quiet desperation. Now it was alive with energy and hope. He was meeting his friend Torin at their usual spot in the observation deck. Torin was a Velinar engineer who had helped design the station's new power systems. They had met during the Korthax attack, working together in the command center, and had become close friends since then. Torin was already there, staring out at the stars. His skin had a healthy glow now, nothing like the sickly gray it had been when the Velinar first arrived. "You look much better," Sam said, sitting beside him. "Enough food and actual medical care will do that," Torin replied with a smile. "My daughter asked me yesterday what it was like on Valara. I realized I could barely remember. All I remember is running." "Tell me about it anyway," Sam said. "The parts you do remember." Torin's eyes grew distant. Valara had oceans made of liquid crystal. During the day, they would catch the sunlight and scatter it into rainbows. At night, they would glow with their own light. Our cities floated above them on anti-gravity platforms. We had gardens that hung in the air, connected by bridges of light. It sounds incredible. It was, but it is gone now. Sometimes I am angry about that. Sometimes I just feel sad. But then I look at my daughter playing with human children, learning in schools that teach her things I could never have taught her during the flight. And I think maybe we can build something new, something different but still beautiful. Sam nodded. "You know, before all this, I thought humanity's purpose in the galaxy would be exploration or trade or science. I never imagined it would be this, giving shelter, building homes for others." "Perhaps that is a better purpose," Torin said. But the peace they enjoyed was fragile, and both of them knew it. Intelligence reports from Earth's long-range scouts painted a worrying picture. The Korthax Dominion was gathering ships. Not just a battle group this time, but a true invasion fleet. They were preparing to make an example of Earth and everyone who stood with them. Secretary General Martinez called an emergency meeting of Earth's governments. The discussion was heated. Some leaders argued that they should negotiate with the Korthax. Others insisted that Earth should evacuate the Velinar to some distant hidden system. A few even suggested that the cost of protection was too high, but the majority disagreed. The footage of the battle had been broadcast across Earth. People had seen the Korthax attack. They had seen Earth's forces defend innocent refugees. Public opinion was overwhelmingly on the side of continued protection. Martinez made her decision. Earth would not back down, but they would not face the Korthax alone. Ambassador Nicole Grant was given a mission. She would travel to worlds across the galaxy, meeting with governments who had suffered under Korthax aggression. Her goal was simple: convince them to join a coalition against the Dominion. It was a difficult task. Many species had bent the knee to the Korthax out of fear. They remembered what happened to those who resisted. Their worlds burned, their populations enslaved or exterminated. The Dominion was ruthless in punishing defiance, but Nicole had a powerful argument. She showed them footage of the battle. She demonstrated that the Korthax could be beaten. She offered them something they had not had in a long time: hope. "I am not asking you to sacrifice your worlds," she told the Talanari Council on their frozen homeworld. "I am asking you to stand with us in mutual defense. Together we are strong enough to resist. Alone, we all fall eventually." The Talanari had lost 3 colony worlds to the Korthax. Their military had been devastated in those defeats. But their ambassador, an elderly female named Kess, looked at the battle footage with tears in her eyes. "You fought for beings you barely knew," she said. "Your people died protecting refugees. We thought such compassion was extinct in this galaxy." "It is not extinct," Nicole replied. "It just needs to be given a chance to grow." Slowly, carefully, the coalition of free worlds was born. Species who had submitted to the Korthax began to find their courage again. They started building ships, training soldiers, preparing for the day when they would no longer bow to the Dominion. Back on Kepler Station, Arian was elected as premier of the Velinar people. It was their first election in 3 generations. The ceremony was held in the main plaza, and both Velinar and human dignitaries attended. In her acceptance speech, Arian spoke words that were broadcast throughout the station and across Earth. We came to this system broken and desperate. We expected at most bare survival. A place to wait and hide until the Korthax found us again. What we found instead was something we thought no longer existed in this galaxy. We found compassion without conditions. We found sacrifice without expectation of reward. We found people who believe that defending the helpless is not a burden but an honor. She paused, looking out at the crowd. Velinar and human faces looked back at her. Humanity did not just give us shelter, they gave us back our future. Our children play in gardens again. Our artists create beauty again. Our scientists think about tomorrow instead of just surviving today. And for that, we will stand beside Earth now and always. When the Korthax come again, and they will come, they will find not just human defenders. They will find Velinar standing shoulder to shoulder with the species that gave us a home. The applause was deafening. True to her word, Arian began contributing to Earth's defensive preparations. Velinar scientists shared their knowledge of advanced energy systems. Velinar engineers helped improve human ship designs. Velinar technicians worked alongside human crews, installing new technologies that made the fleet faster and stronger. The relationship between the 2 species deepened. It was no longer protector and protected. It was partnership. It was friendship. In the workshops, Jake Morrison worked with Velinar architects to design expansion modules for the station. In the medical bay, Dr. Karen Hughes collaborated with Dr. Venn on treatments that would work for both species. In the security offices, Lieutenant Sam Parker trained with Velinar guards, learning their techniques while teaching them human tactics. One evening, Sam and Torin sat on the observation deck again, watching construction crews work on the new defensive platforms being built around the station. "Do you think we can win?" Torin asked. "When the Korthax come with their full fleet?" Sam was quiet for a moment. "I think we have something they do not have. We are not fighting to conquer. We are fighting to protect. We are fighting for our homes, for our families, for our friends. That makes us stronger than any number of ships." "I hope you are right," Torin said, "because the Korthax are bringing 200 warships. Our intelligence confirmed it yesterday." Sam felt a chill run down his spine. 200 ships. That was 10 times what they faced in the first battle. Even with the coalition forces, they would be outnumbered. "Then we will have to be 10 times smarter," Sam said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. Across the galaxy, the Korthax fleet was gathering. High Commander Vex personally oversaw the preparations. He was a strategic genius who had never lost a battle. The humiliation of War Master Drakon's defeat burned in every Korthax heart. This time there would be no mistakes. This time Earth and its pathetic refugees would be crushed completely. But Vex did not know about the coalition. He did not know about the new technologies the Velinar had shared. He did not know about the determination of beings fighting to protect their home. He would learn soon enough. The warning came at dawn, Earth time. Long-range sensors detected massive hyperspace signatures at the edge of the Sol system. 200 Korthax warships, the largest fleet the Dominion had ever assembled for a single target. At their head was the flagship of High Commander Vex, a massive dreadnought called the Absolute Victory. Admiral Peter Collins received the report in his quarters. He had not slept well, knowing this day was coming. Now it was here. He dressed quickly and headed to the bridge of the Valiant. "All stations, this is Admiral Collins. The Korthax fleet has arrived. Execute evacuation protocols. All civilian ships are to proceed to the outer system immediately." Across the Sol system, the evacuation began. Ships carrying families, children, elderly, and non-combatants fled toward the outer planets. Mars opened its underground cities to refugees. The orbital platforms around Jupiter prepared to receive thousands of evacuees. Earth itself went on high alert, its planetary defense systems powering up. On Kepler Station, the Velinar faced a choice. They could evacuate with the other civilians. Admiral Collins had even ordered ships specifically to transport them to safety. But when the vote was held, the result was unanimous. They would stay. This was their home. They would defend it. Arian stood in the station's command center, coordinating with Admiral Collins. Beside her were Velinar engineers, tacticians, and volunteers who had trained for this moment. "Commander, you should evacuate your people," Collins urged. "This battle is going to be brutal. With respect, Admiral, we are not leaving. The Korthax came here because of us. We will face them." Collins looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "Very well. Your people will coordinate point defense for the station. Do not let anything through." "Understood, Admiral. And thank you. For everything." The human fleet took position. 97 warships, including the newly commissioned vessels that had been rushed into service. They formed a defensive sphere around Kepler Station, each ship knowing its role, each crew ready to fight. But they were not alone. As the Korthax fleet began its approach, new hyperspace signatures appeared. 50 ships from coalition species emerged from hyperspace and took position alongside the human fleet. Talinari cruisers, Venti destroyers, Morath carriers, species that had cowered before the Korthax for decades now standing together in defiance. High Commander Vex watched from his flagship with cold satisfaction. Even with their reinforcements, the defenders were outnumbered more than 2-1. He had studied the previous battle carefully. He knew the human tactics. He had prepared counters for everything they might try. "All ships advance in wall formation," Vex commanded. "Overwhelming firepower. Crush them." The Korthax fleet moved forward as a solid wall of metal and weapons. It was an intimidating sight, designed to break enemy morale before the first shot was even fired. Admiral Collins watched them come. "All ships hold position. Let them enter the kill zone." The Korthax came closer, closer, their weapons charged, glowing with deadly energy. At the edge of Mars' orbit, they would be in range to begin their bombardment. "Now," Collins said quietly. Space erupted with fire. Hidden among the asteroids and moons of Mars were automated defense platforms. Hundreds of them, built in secret over the past months. They had been disguised as debris, as rocks, as abandoned satellites. Now they activated simultaneously. Railgun batteries opened fire from every direction. Missile pods launched massive salvos. The Korthax wall formation, designed to maximize forward firepower, suddenly found itself taking fire from above, below, and both flanks. Ships exploded, shields overloaded. The perfect formation broke apart as Korthax commanders tried to respond to threats from multiple directions. But Vex was no fool. He adapted quickly. "All ships break into attack groups. Flank their positions. Focus fire on their capital ships." The battle devolved into chaos. The Korthax fleet split into smaller groups, each one trying to outmaneuver and overwhelm the defenders. The human and coalition ships responded with the tactics they had drilled for months. Fast attack runs, coordinated fire, never staying still long enough to be an easy target. Captain Henry Walsh commanded the UEN Liberty, one of the newest ships in the fleet. His orders were to protect Kepler Station at all costs. When a Korthax heavy cruiser broke through the defensive line and made a run toward the station, Walsh moved to intercept. The Korthax ship was larger, more heavily armed, and its shields were stronger. In a direct fight, the Liberty would lose, so Walsh did not fight directly. He used Jupiter's gravity well to accelerate his ship to incredible speeds, coming around the gas giant in a slingshot maneuver that his crew barely survived. He emerged behind the Korthax cruiser, his weapons already firing. Railgun rounds tore into the enemy engines. The Korthax ship tried to turn to bring its weapons to bear, but it was too slow. Walsh fired again, and again, until the enemy cruiser's engines exploded and it began tumbling toward Jupiter's crushing atmosphere. On Kepler Station, Lieutenant Sam Parker and Torin worked side by side in the defense center. They coordinated point defense systems targeting incoming missiles and fighters. The station's shields held against most attacks, but some got through. Then the alarm screamed a different warning. Boarding pods. The Korthax were trying to take the station by force. Sam grabbed his weapon. "Torin, stay here and coordinate defenses. I will handle the borders." "I am coming with you," Torin said firmly. "This is my home too." They ran through the corridors together, human and Velinar soldiers following them. The Korthax had breached the outer hull in Section 7. Sam and Torin reached the breach point just as the first Korthax warriors emerged from their pod. The Korthax were terrifying warriors, tall, heavily armored, armed with plasma weapons. They had conquered dozens of species. They had never lost in close combat. but they had never fought defenders protecting their home. Sam and Torin led their forces with desperate courage. The corridors became killing zones. Every corner was defended. Every junction was held. The Korthax advanced, but they paid for every meter in blood. A Korthax warrior nearly killed Sam, its plasma rifle aimed at his chest. Torin tackled the warrior from the side, his smaller frame somehow knocking the larger being off balance. Sam fired, and the warrior fell. "We protect each other," Torin said, helping Sam up. "Always," Sam agreed. The fighting was brutal, but the defenders held. Not a single Korthax warrior made it past the first junction. The boarding attempt failed. In space, the battle raged for hours. Ships on both sides were destroyed. Brave crews made sacrifices to protect others. The void filled with debris and the silent screams of the dying. But slowly, gradually, the tide turned. The coalition forces fought with a fury born of generations of oppression. The human ships used tactics the Korthax could not predict. And at the center of it all, Kepler Station stood untouched, a symbol of what they were fighting for. High Commander Vex watched his careful plans fall apart. He had lost more than half his fleet. The humans and their allies were still fighting with undiminished intensity. His own flagship was damaged, systems failing across multiple decks. This was impossible. The Dominion did not lose. The Dominion had never lost, but they were losing now. "All ships retreat," Vex commanded, the words bitter as poison. The surviving Korthax vessels turned and fled. The human fleet pursued them to the edge of the system, ensuring they truly left, then stopped. In the aftermath, rescue ships searched for survivors. Medical teams worked around the clock treating the wounded. Engineers assessed damage. The cost had been high. 23 human ships destroyed, 15 coalition vessels lost, thousands dead, but Kepler Station stood intact. The Velinar were safe. Earth had won. Admiral Collins sat in his command chair, exhausted beyond words. His uniform was torn and bloodied. His ship had taken heavy damage. But they had won. Arian contacted him from the station. She looked as tired as he felt. "Admiral, I do not know how to thank you. Your people gave everything to protect us." "You are not separate from us anymore," Collins said. "You are part of us. When one of us is threatened, all of us respond. That is what it means to be human. And you are human now in all the ways that matter." On Earth, celebrations erupted in every city, not because they had won a war, but because they had saved lives. Because they had stood for something important. Because when refugees came asking for shelter, humanity's answer had been a resounding yes, backed by courage and sacrifice. The news spread across the galaxy. The mighty Korthax Dominion, defeated twice by a young species and their allies, species that had submitted to the Dominion out of fear, began to reconsider. If Earth could stand against them, maybe others could too. The coalition of free worlds grew stronger. More species joined. More fleets were built. The age of Korthax domination was ending. On Kepler Station, Sam and Torin stood in the observation deck watching the sun rise over Earth. The station had some damage, but repair crews were already working. In a few weeks it would be as beautiful as before. Better even. "Do you think they will come back?" Torin asked. "Maybe," Sam said. "But if they do, we will be ready. And we will not be alone," Torin nodded. "I have been thinking about what you said. About civilization being measured by how it treats those who cannot protect themselves. I think humanity has taught the galaxy an important lesson." "What is that?"